My wife cheated, and my daughter helped cover it up. Life often takes unexpected turns, but mine spiraled into chaos when betrayal came from the two people I trusted the most, my wife and my daughter. This is my story, one I never thought I'd have to tell. I'm Trevor Fuden, a 45-year-old average guy. I'm not anyone special. Decent shape, no six-pack abs, and a receding hairline I've made peace with over the years. My wife, Makela, is my age. She has a slight tummy, wears glasses, and while she's not a supermodel, she was always beautiful to me. I say was because everything changed. Our daughter, Ollie, is a 21-year-old college senior. She's smart, independent, and ambitious. Despite her headstrong nature, she decided to stay at home during college to avoid student debt. I was proud of her, or at least I was. While I worked hard to provide for my family, making sacrifices left and right, Makela and Ollie enjoyed the comforts of a lifestyle I could barely afford. Makela drove a sleek, luxury car. All I had were designer clothes and a nearly new sedan as an early graduation gift. Meanwhile, I stuck with my old F-150, held together by duct tape and prayers. I didn't mind. It was worth it to see them happy. Or so I thought. Then everything began to change. Makela started to feel distant. We didn't talk like we used to. Little things like her laugh, her touch, and even her smile became rarer. One night, desperate to reconnect, I asked her, "Are you happy, Makela? Do you think we're okay?" Her response was cold and dismissive. "We're fine. Maybe find a counselor if you're feeling off," she said before walking out of the room. I wanted to believe her. So when she said she was going to see a life coach, I held on to a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was a push she needed to reignite the spark between us. But the spark didn't reignite. Instead, it burned everything down. Makela became secretive, glued to her phone. Ollie grew colder too, avoiding conversations and treating me like an annoying roommate. I chalked it up to college stress until one evening, while working late in the garage, I overheard something that would shatter my world. "Mom, just give Max a try," Ollie said, her voice conspiratorial. "He's fun, and he might spice things up for you. Don't worry about Dad. He'll be gone next weekend. I'll handle everything." I froze. My daughter, my flesh and blood, was setting her mother up with another man. Who the hell was Max? And how could a lie be so brazenly involved in this betrayal? My blood boiled, but I forced myself to stay calm. Instead of confronting them, I devised a plan. That weekend, I told Makela I was going on a hunting trip. In reality, I asked a trusted friend to keep an eye on the house. What he reported back confirmed my worst fears. Photos showed Ollie bringing her boyfriend, Jeff, and another man, Max, into my home. Jeff and Ollie left after a couple of hours, but Max stayed. When I returned, Makela greeted me with unusual affection. Her tone was overly sweet, and Ollie couldn't hide her smug, knowing smirks. That's when I knew they'd betrayed me. I quietly prepared for what would come next. I updated my will, canceled our joint credit cards, and transferred my money to a private account. I rented an extended stay hotel nearby and began assembling my plan for revenge, piece by piece. Christmas Eve finally arrived. I acted as though nothing was wrong, helping set the table and smiling through the awkward small talk. But I had no intention of letting the night pass peacefully. After dinner, I stood up to make a toast. "To family," I said, raising my glass, and to honesty. My words hung in the air, and I could see Makela and Ollie exchange nervous glances. I turned to Jeff first. "So, Jeff," I said, my voice calm but sharp, "who's Heather?" His face went pale. "What?" he stammered, pretending not to understand. I pulled out my phone and played an audio clip of him talking intimately with a woman named Heather. Ollie's expression changed from confusion to rage. "You lying piece of trash," she screamed at Jeff, slamming her hands on the table. Before Jeff could respond, I handed him a folder. "You've been served," I said. Inside were legal documents detailing a restraining order I'd filed on Ali's behalf. Not that she deserved it. Jeff left the house, humiliated, but I wasn't done. Turning to Ali, I said, "How does it feel, Ali, to be betrayed? Because that's exactly what you did to me." Her jaw dropped, but I didn't wait for her reply. I looked directly at Makela. "And you, my dear wife, will now face the consequences of your choices." I revealed everything. How I caught Max at our home, how Ali had orchestrated it all, and how I had meticulously planned my exit from this broken family. I told Makela her luxury car had already been repossessed. Ali's graduation gift was gone, their credit cards canceled, and their phones disconnected. Their belongings were neatly packed into trash bags, waiting on the porch. Machella's face turned red with anger, and Ali's eyes filled with tears. They screamed at me, but I stayed calm. When Makela pounded on the locked door, I shouted back, "Your new car is on the curb. Maybe Max can give you a ride. Merry Christmas." That night, they left with nothing but their humiliation. The next morning, Christmas Day, I sat alone in my quiet house. I ate reheated leftovers for breakfast and watched the snow fall outside. The peace was strange but comforting. For the first time in years, I felt free. The aftermath. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but Makela wasn't ready to let go. A week later, I heard a knock at the door. The sun was setting, and the bitter winter wind bit through my old trucker's jacket as I opened the door just enough to see who was there. Makela stood on the porch, makeup free, her hair disheveled. She looked like a ghost of the woman I had married. "Trevor, please don't close the door," she said, her voice trembling. I folded my arms. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you," she said. "Can I come in?" "No," I said firmly. "Trevor," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I can't explain my actions, but I need to try." I let out a bitter laugh. "Your actions? You mean sleeping with Max and dragging our daughter into it?" Her face crumpled. "Yes," she whispered. "You've already said everything I need to hear," I said coldly. She took a shaky breath. "Trevor, I've been seeing a therapist. I know I messed up, but I want to fix this. I want to save our marriage." I raised an eyebrow. "Save it? Where was this energy a month ago, Makela, when you were sneaking around with Max and teaching our daughter how to betray someone who loved her?" "I made a mistake," she cried. "No," I said, my voice steady. "You made a choice, and now you have to live with it." She begged me to reconsider, but my decision was final, and I don't regret a single thing. I started rebuilding my life, focusing on my own happiness for the first time in years. Betrayal cuts deep, especially when it comes from the people you love the most. But sometimes, letting go is the only way to heal. Life doesn't always go as planned, but I've learned that peace is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Her face crumpled as I pressed on. "Did you tell me the truth immediately? A day later? A week? Or were you just going to take that secret to your grave?" That was the only time she whispered, her voice breaking. "One stupid mistake. Please, Trevor, don't throw away everything we had over this. Which mistake are you talking about?" I asked coldly, my voice steady but laced with anger. "Cheating? Hiding it? Involving your daughter in your lies?" Makela recoiled as if I had slapped her. Her lips trembled, and tears welled up in her eyes. But I felt nothing but a hollow ache in my chest. "I hate you," I said, venom dripping from my words. "I want nothing to do with you or your daughter. If you had kept your bedroom matters private, she would have never been involved." The weight of my words seemed to crush her. Some of the neighbors had started peeking out through their windows, curiosity sparked by the escalating drama. I could feel their eyes on us, but I didn't care. This wasn't about them. Makela wiped at her tears with shaking hands. She begged, "Please, Trevor, I'm sorry. What can I do to make this right?" "You can leave," I said flatly, my patience worn razor thin. "Just leave." She lingered for a moment, her shoulders slumping as if the words had physically struck her. But eventually, she turned away, her movements slow and heavy, as though she were dragging the weight of her guilt behind her. I shut the door firmly behind her, the sound echoing in the now quiet room. Sliding on my noise-canceling headphones, I drowned out the muffled sound of her soft knocking as it eventually faded into silence. 11 months later, I spent Christmas Eve alone in my modest one-bedroom apartment. The decision wasn't out of necessity, but by choice. Solitude had become a companion, a quiet reprieve from the chaos I had once called my life. After years of letting others dictate my happiness, I found comfort in simplicity. The air inside my apartment smelled of the homemade lasagna I had pulled from the oven minutes ago. Cooking had become a new skill of mine, not out of passion, but necessity. I had learned that reclaiming control over the little things was a powerful antidote to the storms left behind by betrayal. The aftermath of Michela's infidelity was a hurricane that had stripped me bare, leaving me with little more than my pride and a thirst for peace. The marriage had ended like a car crash in slow motion, messy and drawn out. The divorce took 9 grueling months. Our once beautiful home was sold quickly, and the proceeds were split equally between us. Michela struggled to adapt to life without the safety net of our marriage. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, she was still trying to piece things together. As for me, freedom was bittersweet, but liberating. I'd often wondered in the quiet of night if I had overreacted. But every time I relived the pain, the answer came back crystal clear: I hadn't. Betrayal made me feel disposable, so I left. Case closed. It was during one of my lonelier evenings that I stumbled upon pickleball, a sport I barely understood at first, but quickly grew to enjoy. The local recreation center became my escape, a place where I could shed my worries for an hour or two. That's where I met Shannon. She was warm, easygoing, and refreshingly direct, a breath of fresh air in a world that often felt suffocating. During a game, I accidentally hit her with the ball while attempting a clumsy shot. The resounding smack drew gas from the other players, followed by laughter. Her friends teased her, suggesting I kiss it better. Playing along, I blew her an exaggerated kiss across the court, and Shannon laughed, her eyes sparkling with amusement. After the game, she approached me, still chuckling. "Well, you've got an interesting way of introducing yourself," she teased. "It's a new strategy," I replied, grinning. "Think it'll catch on?" "Maybe," she said, her smile softening. "If you buy me a drink, I might forgive you." We ended up at a nearby cafe, sipping coffee and exchanging stories. Shannon was separated, still nursing wounds of her own. She wasn't ready for romance, and honestly, neither was I. But there was something about her honesty, her willingness to embrace the messiness of life, that resonated with me. "Why did you start playing pickleball?" I asked, genuinely curious. She gave me a wry smile. "Because my self-pity was getting exhausting," she admitted. "I needed to try something new before I completely lost it." I chuckled, nodding in agreement. "Same here. I needed to stop stewing in my own head." Our conversations grew longer and our meetings more frequent. Over time, a tentative friendship blossomed into something deeper. Months passed, and Shannon and I found ourselves growing closer, though we tread cautiously. One evening, as we sat on her couch with the warm glow of a table lamp casting soft shadows, she asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Who are you thinking of when we're together?" I hesitated for a moment, then answered honestly, You've been my mirror, Shannon, showing me there's still something good left in me." Her smile was soft and understanding. We weren't perfect, but we were learning to trust again and build something new from the ashes of our pasts. In late January, a letter arrived in my mailbox. The sender's name stopped me in my tracks. Ollie, Michela's daughter. I opened the envelope with shaky hands and unfolded the letter. Her words were heartfelt and apologetic. She acknowledged her role in the chaos and confessed that she was pregnant. She wanted to know if I would be willing to be a part of her child's life. The decision weighed heavily on me. I wrestled with conflicting emotions for days. Ollie wasn't my biological daughter, but I had been a part of her life for years. Could I set aside the pain and extend an olive branch? Shannon, ever the voice of reason, encouraged me to respond. "You don't have to make a lifelong commitment right now," she said gently. "But maybe this could be a step toward healing for both of you." Taking her words to heart, I wrote back, "Ollie, I'm willing to try. I'll never be the father you wanted, but I'd like to meet my grandchild. Please let me know when the time is right." A year later, on Christmas Eve, my apartment looked and felt completely different. The once bare walls were adorned with photos and decorations, and the scent of roasted turkey filled the air. Shannon, Ollie, and I shared a quiet but joyful dinner together. As I held my granddaughter Bonnie in my arms, I felt something shift inside me. The sting of the past, though still faintly present, began to fade. Ollie's tentative steps toward reconciliation gave me hope, while Shannon's warmth reminded me that second chances were possible. Life wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was mine to rebuild one moment at a time. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace.